Gigabyte's Aorus series has some nice improvements this year with the new Aorus 16X. Here's everything that you need to know. I've got the midnight grey finish, but there's also the shinier Aurora grey finish that we saw at CES. The logo on the lid has an iridescent finish, but only shows up in the right lighting. As far as my fingers can tell, the interior and bottom panel are plastic, while the lid is metallic. There's a regular amount of keyboard flex when pushing down hard, but a little more screen flex than normal. The screen is stable when typing though, which is what matters. Overall build quality feels quite nice. There's plenty of space on the front for your fingers, making it very easy to open the lid, which goes back about 130 degrees. The hinges feel smooth and sturdy, even when ripping the lid open fast, and there's no random keyboard deck bulge if I push it back further than it's meant to. Width and depth are similar to most other 16-inch gaming laptops, but it is a little thicker at the back. But despite that, the laptop alone weighs almost 5.2 pounds or 2.3 kilos, increasing to 6.7 pounds or 3 kilos with the 240 watt charger included. So it's on the lighter side compared to a number of other 16-inch gaming laptops. My configuration has Intel's Core i9-14900HX processor, Nvidia RTX 4070 graphics, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 16-inch 165Hz screen. But it's available for less money with lower tier CPU or GPU options with the link below. The keyboard has 3 zones of RGB backlighting, with a bunch of clear keys so that you don't forget it's a gaming laptop. All keys and secondary functions get lit up, which I think is a first for an Aorus laptop. You can hold the function key and press spacebar to change between 3 brightness levels, but there's more customization in the RGB Fusion tab of Gigabyte's Control Center software. You can also control the rear lighting through here too. There's some light bar action on the back, and it shows the Aorus logo, but you can turn it off in software if you prefer. The keyboard has 1.7mm of key travel and was alright to type with. The key presses just feel a little mushy. The large touchpad was nice and smooth, clicks down anywhere, and works well. As for ports, the left side has the power input, Gigabit Ethernet port, HDMI 2.1, USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port, and a Thunderbolt 4 Type C port. The right has a 3.5mm audio combo jack, UHS 2 MicroSD card slot, and USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C and Type A ports. There aren't any ports on the back, and I noticed that the power cable doesn't seem to sit the full way into the machine. There's this little bit that's always exposed. Only the left Type-C port can be used to charge the laptop with up to 100 watts, but both the left and right Type-C ports have DisplayPort 1.4 support, though it's a bit limited. The right Type-C port always connects to the Intel integrated graphics, whether Optimus is on or off, while the left Type-C port connects to the Intel integrated graphics, but only if Optimus is on. If you turn Optimus off, then it has no display output at all, which is pretty normal for a Thunderbolt port. HDMI always connects to the Nvidia graphics though, and it could run our LG B9 TV at 4K 120Hz 12-bit with G-Sync. Getting inside requires unscrewing 12 TR6 screws of 3 different lengths, so keep track of them. The front 4 screws are shortest, and back 2 corners middle length. It was easy enough to open from the front using pry tools. I'll leave a link to these ones I use below. Inside we've got the battery down the front, 2 memory slots near the middle, 2 PCIe Gen 4 M.2 storage slots, and Wi-Fi 7 card hiding underneath a thermal pad. The SSDs both have thermal pads too, they're just on the bottom panel. The performance from both SSDs was decent. Mine weren't in RAID, just 2 separate 1TB drives. The speeds from the microSD card slot were quite good. The card clicks in and sits most of the way into the laptop, so no risk of bumping and breaking it. Wi-Fi performance wasn't as good when compared to other laptops that have the latest Wi-Fi 7. It's still ahead compared to last gen 6E, and I mean this is still more than twice as fast than Gigabit Ethernet. The upgradability score is good for a 16-inch laptop. The only reason it didn't get full marks is because of the less common TR6 screw type, which I take half a point for. Both M.2 slots could fit double-sided SSDs no problem. The speakers are found underneath on the left and right sides towards the front. They sound way better than last year's bigger Aorus 17X. Not super amazing, but definitely above average. They get fairly loud, are still clear at higher volume, and there's a little bass. The Latencymon results weren't great. The 16X is powered by a 99 watt-hour battery. The control center software has auto panel refresh rate enabled by default, which lowers the screen's refresh rate down to 60 Hz when you unplug the charger to save power. The screen flashes black as the refresh rate changes, and it automatically goes back up when you plug back in. It lasted for 5 hours and 42 minutes in the YouTube video playback test, which is a reasonable result for an Intel HX-based laptop, and actually the same as Intel's Legion Pro 7i. But there's a problem. It can't run a game on battery power. We normally run The Witcher 3 at 1080p medium settings with a 30 FPS frame limit, but the 16X only lets you pick from power-saving silence, meeting, and default modes when running on battery, and none of these were able to get FPS higher than 10, so the test was aborted, as this is unplayable. Let's check out thermals next. The 16X has two fans inside, with heat pipes shared between the CPU and GPU, and there are holes above the fans for air intake. Air gets exhausted out from both sides, and out of the corners on the back. Gigabyte's control center software lets us change between different performance modes, which include default, creator, turbo, gaming, meeting, and power-saving silence. You can set the keyboard lighting effect and brightness level for each performance mode. If you turn on the AI boost option at the top, then the performance mode will automatically change based on the application you open. Now, the name uses the magic AI letters, but if you look through the control center files, you'll find a bunch of XML files that manually specify what level of CPU and GPU performance should be set based on the game that's opened. Maybe they use AI on their end to generate these profiles, who knows. Look, it's kinda cool that they have so many custom profiles tuned for so many different workloads. But as far as I can tell, that functionality has nothing to do with AI, and I'm kinda just overseeing AI plastered on everything. For some reason, they've got Stable Diffusion for generating AI images built into the control center software, though it didn't actually work for us even on the latest updates. So maybe the AI future isn't here just yet. And yeah, Stable Diffusion image generation is pretty cool, but does it really need to be bundled into the software that's used for controlling the laptop? It just feels kinda random, like they shoved it in there so they can say more about it being an AI laptop. Okay, back to performance modes. You can also set different fan profiles separately to the performance modes, or customize them quite a bit. We haven't messed with any of this for our thermal testing, and left the fan profiles on the defaults the performance modes use. The internal temps were okay when sitting there idle. The rest of the results are from combined CPU and GPU stress tests, which aim to represent a worst-case full-load scenario. These results are what I'd consider to be cold when it comes to this workload on a gaming laptop. Everything is under 80 degrees Celsius. That's relatively low. The AI setting didn't do anything because there wasn't any mention of AIDA64 in the XML files. Gaming mode with the lid closed was cooler than with the lid open. Kind of weird, but this seems to be the case with most laptops I test. The cooling pad was able to lower temps by a few degrees too. Performance was basically the same with or without the pad, because thermals were not a limit in this workload. Basically, turbo, creator, and gaming modes were all much the same in this test, while default, meeting, and power save modes weren't as good. This is because they limit the processor to 30 or 35 watts, and the RTX 4070 graphics to 95 watts. This laptop has a full-powered 4070, as Nvidia's control panel says dynamic boost can go up to 140 watts. We only see 100 watts here, and in most games, due to Nvidia's voltage limit, which is normal behavior. 55 watts for the CPU isn't bad, but for context, Lenovo's slightly lighter Legion 7i goes up to 60 watts with the maxed out GPU. Here's how an actual game performs with the different performance modes. FPS was basically the same between turbo, gaming, and creator modes. We don't test with any upscaling, so you could boost FPS further with DLSS or FSR. The lower power modes weren't actually that far behind in terms of performance, but as you'll hear soon, they run quieter. The CPU can use much more power if the GPU is idle, like in Cinebench. Turbo mode performed the best as it maxes out the fans to improve cooling, while gaming and creator modes were quite close and more limited by thermals. It's a great result when compared to other gaming laptops. This is the highest multi-core score we've seen from a 16-inch gaming laptop in this test so far. Lenovo's heavier Legion Pro 7i isn't far behind, but the other contenders are all larger 18-inch models. Performance lowers if we unplug unplug the charger and instead run off of battery power, but it's still fairly good relative to the same selection of laptops. Basically, CPU performance should be good on and off the battery. But don't forget that GPU performance on battery, like in a game, was so bad we aborted the gaming battery test. Most laptops I test are in the low 30°C range on the keyboard at idle, and the 16X was in line with this. It's cool. It doesn't increase too much with the stress test running, just a little warm near the spacebar. That goes for meeting mode too, which had the same fan speed and power limits as power saving silence mode. Default mode was a little cooler, but the fans are louder to compensate for the slightly higher CPU power limit. Creator and turbo modes weren't that different. The red spot near the spacebar was only warm, not hot, and the wrist rest and WASD area were both still cool, as air comes in through the keyboard. Turbo mode was cooler, but the fans are maxed out now and quite loud. Let's have a listen. The fans were occasionally audible when idle. The cooling pad allowed the fans to run a little quieter in gaming mode, while also reducing temps a few degrees. Turbo mode is very loud, but there's no real point in using it. As we saw earlier, game FPS was much the same in turbo, gaming, and creator modes. So with no thermal issues, there's no point running with louder fans. It's cool enough already. Last year, Gigabyte stuck with the Aorus 15X and 17X, which had your typical 16:9 screens. So they completely ignored the trend of going to a 16:10 screen last year. But that changes this year with the 16X, which is now using a taller 16:10 panel. There's only one screen option. Color gamut is decent, but content creators will want to go for something with higher DCI-P3 coverage. Brightness was good, reaching above 500 nits when set to maximum, though Gigabyte's website notes a 400 nit peak brightness. So not sure if that's a mistake, or I somehow won the panel lottery. It's a great result when compared to most other laptops, basically matching Acer's Helios Neo 16 and Lenovo's Pro Series Legion laptops, and much brighter compared to their cheaper Gigabyte G6X. Backlight bleed wasn't an issue, but this will vary between panels. Average grey-to-grey response time was good too, at just 5 milliseconds. For a 165Hz screen, we want transitions to occur within a 6.06 millisecond refresh window, and only a couple of the transitions were above this. Honestly, anything 5 milliseconds or below is great for most people, and it's faster than their larger Aorus 17X from last year. The total system latency is the amount of time between a mouse click and when a gunshot fire appears on the screen in Counter-Strike 2, and it's a good result compared to most other similarly spec'd laptops. The Aorus 16 has a MUX switch. It's managed through the AI Power Gear section of the Control Center software. You select performance mode, but that needs a reboot. We left it on balance, because this allows you to control advanced Optimus through the NVIDIA control panel. G-Sync is available when Optimus is off, but Adaptive Sync is still available via the iGPU when Optimus is on. There's a 1080p camera above the screen, and it has IR for Windows Hello Face Unlock. Here's how the camera and microphones look and sound, and this is what it sounds like while typing on the keyboard. Now let's find out how well the Aorus 16X performs in games. We've tested it with these settings for best results. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested with our own custom test run, and I've got the Aorus 16X shown by the red highlight. At 1080p, it's sitting within the rest of the RTX 4070 results. No problems there. And that continues at the higher 1440p resolution too. Most of these differences aren't significant and are either within the margin of error range or depend on silicon lottery, aka luck. Red Dead Redemption 2 was tested with the game's benchmark. Again at 1080p, the Aorus 16X's 4070 was performing similarly to many other laptops of similar size. And that's the case at 1440p too. So it's performing as expected, despite also being one of the lightest 4070 laptops we've tested. Control is a GPU-heavy game, and the 16X was one of the better results. But again, it's mostly a small and insignificant difference. Same deal at 1440p again. The only way to get a noticeable performance improvement from the 4070 is to spend more on a laptop with with 4080 graphics, which are around 55% faster than the 4070 from our testing. Here are the 3D mark results. Now for some content creation tests. It varies by test, but in most cases, the Aorus 16X was doing quite well, and was performing ahead of other similarly spec'd laptops that we've tested so far. Gigabyte's BIOS looks much nicer than it did last year, but there still aren't that many options for customization. It's got nothing on others like Dell, Lenovo, or MSI, which offer far more customization in that order. Linux support was tested with an Ubuntu 24.04 live CD. By default, the keyboard, touchpad, camera, speakers, Ethernet, and Wi-Fi all worked fine. Keyboard shortcuts for changing volume worked, but the screen brightness keys did not. They seemed to get mapped to microphone mute and unmute, and none of the F keys changed screen brightness. Pricing and availability will change over time, so check the link below the video for updates and current sales. And if the Aorus 16X does have a good sale, we'll be sure to add it to our gaminglaptop.deals website. We update that every day to include all of the latest sales, so make sure that you check it out regularly to save money on your next gaming laptop. At the time of recording, only Newegg seems to have the exact configuration that we've covered in this video for $1,880 US. They've got one with half the SSD space and a 14th gen i7 processor instead, but it's only $80 less. Amazon has a 13th gen CPU version, but same 4070 graphics for $1,629, while the RTX 4060 config is $1,500. Yeah, that's a bit too expensive for an RTX 4070 gaming laptop. We've just got better deals on our gaminglaptop.deals website. Sure, these 4070 alternatives are on sale, so maybe the Aorus 16X would be more competitive once it goes on sale too. But even at full price, the Legion Slim 5 is still cheaper, and personally, I'd prefer that laptop for the better battery life and better software. Granted, the screen on the Aorus is a bit brighter and it has better CPU performance with the charger connected. It's just kind of rough when you can get an RTX 4080 laptop on sale for less money, and the 4080 is like 55% faster than the 4070. All things considered, Gigabyte's Aorus 16X is a pretty good gaming laptop, with some nice improvements compared to previous year's models. Personally, I'm just happy that all the keys on the keyboard finally light up the secondary key functions. That was something that was missing for way too long in the 17X. CPU performance is great with the charger connected. It's actually the most powerful 16-inch gaming laptop we've tested so far in Cinebench 2024, and performance is still pretty decent even on battery power. It's got a decent screen, thermals are good under load, and the gaming performance is about where you would expect for the specs. Battery life was kinda average for an Intel HX gaming laptop, and forget about playing games when running on battery power. Granted, I recommend people stay away from gaming on battery power where possible anyway, so maybe it's not that big of a loss. The only thing that I didn't like is that AI seems to have just been shoehorned in, despite this laptop not even having NPU hardware. But whatever, I guess that's 2024 for you. So overall, the Aorus 16X is a solid gaming laptop that I could easily recommend as long as it has a nice sale. At full price, I don't think it's worth it. For the RTX 4070, I think I'd want to see around $1,300 or so. And if you're shopping for a gaming laptop around this size and this level of specs, then check out my Legion 5i review over there next. It's another great option and is definitely worth checking out. I'll see you in that one.